Welcome back to Comics the Gathering. I'm your host, Rob Bossoleri, and with me is Jesse Graft and local Vegas comedian Harvey Starter, another one of us. What's going on? Welcome.
Well, glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Show, Harvey.
Yes.
This week we're going to be finally drifting away from Magic the Gathering to talk about a topic that is kind of a hot topic in the nerd geek community, and that is remakes versus re-releases. So I have some talking points here. We're gonna bounce off the guys. We're gonna talk about movies, video games, anime, and just the culture in general. So I'm gonna start us off with the movie remake that no one wants right now, and that is them talking about remaking The Princess Bride.
Carrie Elwes, I don't think I said his name right, but he's like, why would you ruin something so perfect?
I know.
Which he's referring to the line where he's talking about breasts. There's a shortage of perfect breasts in the world. And that was it. He goes, there's a shortage of perfect movies in the world. I heard this and I went, inconceivable!
Harvey, what is your takeaway on this whole wanting to remake Princess Bride?
Is there a word better than furious anger?
Okay.
It's like I want Andre the Giant to burst from his grave and strangle whoever thought this was a good idea.
I am now.
If we do another 80s remake, we'll cash in! Yeah, because this has worked so many times before!
And that kind of lets me segue into my next thing. Is I actually had trouble writing this part because I couldn't think of any movies that I like that are remakes. There are some that have been okay, and were a great way to kill an afternoon, but I don't say like surpass the original. The Red Dawn remake with a couple years ago with Josh Peck. Do you remember
Chris
that?
Hemsworth? Yeah.
No, I don't. I remember the commercials for it.
So I was obligated to go see Red Dawn because the original is one of my dad's favorite movies of all time. So I was just like, okay, let me go see this remake. Like, I've seen the original. I love the original, but I was like, I gotta go see this remake and just.
Red Dawn 1 was really special. It was the first PG-13 movie. It had a lot of graphic violence, a lot of obviously real machine guns. The concept was really sound. Communists coming through from Mexico border, and just a real war scene going on.
Was it? I don't think it was Mexico. They parachuted in. I think they came.
They parachuted in, but they came from the south.
Was it?
Yeah, and I could be mistaken on that. It's been a long time, but I saw that when it first came out. That was a freaking amazing movie. And again, first PG-13 movie, so that means we're not going to have so much nudity, but there was just enough violence. It was the first time they ever had such a classification. Unfortunately, now, when you see PG-13, you're like, oh, this is going to suck bad.
No, I think PG-13 is about where it should be. The graphic violence has toned down a little bit out of PG-13, but they've also upped the amount of language they're allowed to use. Like, that's not as heavily censored
When
now.
you hear, like, the new Deadpool movie, the next one coming out is going to be PG-13,
that's a different thing. That's Deadpool.
Exactly. But you see, that's the kind of response you should have. Like, when they said Venom was going to be PG-13, I'm like, come on.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah, that's bad. Like, PG-13 might as well be G by today's standards.
Yeah, no, I think they really need to redo the race. You know, go back and watch like R-rated movies from like the early 80s, like Nightmare on Elm Street, and I was like, I pretty much see this, like cartoon shows now, like in the afternoon.
Yeah, no, I think it's time that they go back. Like, the problem is they're not going to retroactively like redo the ratings on these, but a lot of these movies should probably be retroactively like re-rated. Whether it's some of the old slasher films that just aren't that scary anymore because of how the effects have progressed. To there are some movies that you look at and you're like, how is this PG? Oh, it was released before PG-13 was a thing.
Listen to Back to the Future, the stuff that Marty says.
Oh, God.
Holy shit, Jesus Christ, Doc! I'm like, they would not be allowed to say that today.
Yeah.
They would not be allowed to say that.
Point out that the guy who wrote that entire movie must have done all the cocaine. Like the whole point of the movie is him trying to not bone his mom.
That's why they stopped. That's like came fell out of fashion after the 80s because that guy already did a whole bit. You had to wait for them to make more.
Rain was trying to port Calvin Klein. I'm like, okay.
I always love the fact, too, that no one ever in the movie ever brings up. They're like, hey, remember that guy you almost slept with? Why does our son look like that? Hold on.
Yeah.
Like
This sounds like a theme from Pornhub. Like,
Jesus.
God, don't even get me started
but
on like, some of the
remakes, a
Stallone
lot of these remakes, like the Predator remake, where no one looks jacked. They've got like, what was it, Jordan Key in it or whatever, and I'm just like, all right, he's funny, but...
Was that a remake or a reboot?
Was that even a reboot, or was it just...
Was it a continuation?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because the problem with like Predator and Alien at this point is like they've made prequels, like the continuity just there's so much to like absorb in the lore and everything. Like Alien lore is insane when trying to follow Alien lore, because like they establish one thing and then in the next movie they establish something else that like goes against that. So then in the third movie they establish something that bridges those two continuities. And, like, it was just very sloppy, and by the time you get to the end, it is extremely confusing.
Right, and for me, the biggest franchise in sci-fi is Star Trek. Even bigger than Star Wars in some way, because Star Wars is still... There were cartoons, but the series, they never did a televised Star Wars series.
Christmas special!
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. But... when Star Trek did that reboot, that J.J. Abrams reboot that was just awful, and people love it. People love it because it was bright, it was colorful, it was Star Trek meets Michael Bay, and it was, for a Star Trek fan like myself, a dumpster fire. And it also affected what they would now call the Prime Universe. So for the Star Trek fans out there, you know the J.J. Abrams universe is referred to as a Kelvin timeline because the first ship we see is the USS Kelvin, and that first part of the movie was pretty, great. You had Jennifer Morrison as the mom to Captain Kirk. You had Thor.
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth was a really brave George Kirk, and that scene was poignant, it was cutting, it was great, and it didn't screw with the timeline to that point. And after that, the movie was just, Captain Kirk can't get laid! And you're like, what? Who wrote this crap? Who's building a starship in Iowa? Like, why would you build a starship on the ground? There was just so many sloppy little things to it, and now they're coming out with Star Trek Picard, and the stuff that was written in that J.J. Abrams universe affects what's happening in all subsequent Star Trek shows. So,
why?
even in the video game is affected by what was written in the J.J. verse, and they finally just stopped production. They were going to do a fourth Star Trek movie, and they just stopped because there wasn't enough demand for it, and the actors didn't want to do it anymore. You can look that up. It was that bad. I mean, this is what happens when you remake a movie. You have to understand, we're nerds. I'm a nerd before I'm anything else. When you do something, you better understand what the hell you're writing and what the freaking genre's about. There was a famous interview with Jon Stewart where J.J. Abrams was like, I never even liked Star Trek. And if you're going to be making stuff, content, if someone's giving you the keys to the car of Star Trek, of sci-fi, you better fucking get it right. And not give us another watered-down Episode 4 lame-ass Star Wars movie where it's like, here's another Death Star, except this Death Star's got a forest.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. Like, it's like, wasn't it? I watched the... Which one was that? That was the, what was the title of that one? Wasn't
A New Dope.
It's like, it was like, yeah, Episode 7 was just like Episode 4, but with like, like a black stormtrooper.
Oh, and look, this random dumpster diver, she's got the Force and she figured it out in 10 minutes. They strapped her to a dental chair and she figured the Force out in 10 minutes. I'm like...
I mean, on the other hand, though, like, I'm not a nerd. I'm a geek. I identify differently. And,
what kind of sexual are you? Pansexual, transsexual, cisgender? What is this now?
What is it when you only want to have sex with 7 or 9 from Star Trek Voyager? What's that sexuality?
Sane.
and so...
Thank you, Jerry Ryan, for not aging in 30 years.
Jesus. Yeah, damn, she actually looks good.
I don't know. I'm not a Trekkie. I don't plug Star Trek, but I do like Star Wars. And
I'll plug her.
Jesus Christ. Jesus. I'm the person who maybe is in the minority here. The only Star Wars movie that's come out in the last, like, since Disney has taken over that I've not liked has been Solo, and even that had its redeeming moments. Like, I feel like they did Lando really well, but I didn't care for how they portrayed Han.
Which is the whole point of the movie. Now, did they get the storyline right, the backstory? I think it's one of the few times where they were like, all right, just do what they say in the frickin' books and just do it.
The only thing I didn't like was the origin of the name Solo. That was so stupid.
And again, they put more money into that movie than anything else, and the flaw was here. Again, when we're talking about remakes, it's not even just that you make a movie. Eventually, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years goes by, you want to re-release the content to a new audience with actors and people who are more recognizable to a younger audience. I get that. When you do something, whether it's a remake or a flashback, whatever you do, if the actor either A, does not understand the character, again, he doesn't embody, I'm not saying he has to be Harrison Ford, but Harrison Ford put a lot of himself into the role of Han Solo.
Harrison Ford made sure that Han Solo was a dick.
and again, what do? They remade Star Wars. They re-released it, and they had it where he doesn't shoot Greedo. Okay.
Yeah. That's a point I wanted to bring up, is where do you draw the line on re-releasing something? Do you re-release it as its original thing, or do you let... obviously, nobody likes what Lucas did with muddling with how this...
All of his movies. E.T. The
that was
FBI... Yep, you were right. I'm sorry, those two are butt buddies. I always mix them up.
But let's say... let's look at, maybe a movie that has a good remake.
Okay.
It.
Yes. I like Tim Curry. I really do.
I love Tim Curry, and I think you can tell a lot about a person by where that person knows Tim Curry from.
Yes. Yes.
What was the first time?
Rocky Horror Picture Show. High heels, garter belt, stockings. I mean, that's like the classic movie.
The first movie I actually ever saw Tim Curry in was Muppet Treasure Island.
No, Jesus.
I was 7, okay?
You just lost cool points, dude.
I was 7, and also that is a fantastic movie. Go back and watch it now. Tim Curry is amazing in that movie.
Well, he's Tim Curry.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
yes.
By the way, can we have a disclaimer, like, because we're talking about remakes and Tim Curry, do not remake Rocky Horror. Don't do that.
They did it already.
God, why? When did they do that? What?
Actually, so I had issues with it, but I generally found it to be okay. They did a made-for-TV version, so they took out the statues with the dongs in the background. But the Frankenfurter was played by an actual trans person. She was obviously a female now, but not originally a female. I think she played the role.
But it was a set sans dongs. How do you have it without the schlongs? You have to have some schlong.
The only thing that I didn't care for was they had it as you were watching it as a viewing, and so most of the time it was fine, but every now and then, like when you go see Rocky Horror and people, do all the crazy in-jokes that have become a thing at the live shows, and like are throwing popcorn and stuff, they cut out and there'd be this group of punks literally just dressed as stereotypical 80s punks, throwing stuff at the screen.
You're
and blah,
losing
blah, blah.
me.
Yeah, no.
You're losing me. That's the thing. The whole point of anything you do in life is to be successful, yes?
Yeah.
If the gimmick is not going to be successful, if you're just hand selecting an audience when you're testing these things that are just going to tell you what you want, the hell are you bothering for? Okay? Anytime you do something like this, it's going to reach the source fans. And if we don't like it, look, I'll tell you right now, I've got a TV in my house, I'm a little old school, but even Netflix account and all that jazz, how many times do you see people replaying all of these remakes? They don't.
No.
How many times in your lifetime have you seen Star Trek Wrath of Khan replayed? Or the 1, 2, and 3 Star Wars? All the time. Because people want to see it. How many people are looking to see Star Wars 2? Not too many people looking to see
Me-
Obi-Wan Kenobi walk around like Batman, trying to figure out why there's a bunch of New Zealand clones just in a prison camp, just eating food and not complaining.
And it's like one of those things where, like, I think the only time I've rewatched episode 1 and 2 is when I was making somebody who hadn't watched Star Wars watch all of Star Wars.
And you got to show it 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, and then go. I don't know. I mean, the guys who made Star Wars had a stroke after that, and there was some fan film or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, like Luke Skywalker was dressed up like Walker Texas Ranger, and he was all grizzled out. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, part of it is like, I think with a lot of things with remakes, is like some of it is just it works because it's from a certain time.
Yeah.
Like,
because you lose that context a little bit. Like, let's talk about this is kind of in the realm of look at the MCU and look at the Infinity War. In the comic books, you have Thanos who is trying to impress death, and this is written while America is in the Vietnam conflict.
Yeah.
And so you have Thanos, and you have all these soldiers coming back that are traumatized from seeing one of the worst military conflicts of all time. And being on the front lines, and America is in the heart of Cold War, and you have all this going on. And then if you look at the Thanos that we get in the MCU, his motives are a little bit altruistic. He's not trying to get with Lady Death. He's trying to save humanity from overpopulation, which I feel is a direct correlation to issues we're experiencing now with like global warming, and the population is.
Well, that was the first Iron Man movie. The first Iron Man movie was he was selling weapons to fight terrorism in Afghanistan.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
And the whole thing became it was kind of like a critique on Bush and Cheney, and that's fine. I always felt like it was a job of comics to kind of critique the times that you're in. So if they want to organically infuse that into a movie and take that theme in lieu of another one, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. Again, I want to get pure with this. If you're going to do that, that's fine, but make the characters look like the characters. Do not try to make all these people look like extras in the Matrix. When X-Men came out 20-something years ago, there was a one-liner where they go to Wolverine and they're like, hey, would you prefer yellow spandex? I'm going, yes! That's Wolverine, you fucking moron! Make the goddamn movie! Well, what idiot would run around in spandex? Every fucking wrestler on the WWE! They literally had a guy called the Canadian Crippler, the Rabid Wolverine, Chris fucking Benoit, who was a little guy with rippling muscles who wore spandex and looked like Wolverine! It can be done! Get your heads out of your asses! If I want Wachowski sisters, I'll go and look them up. They can make a black leather-clad movie. There's a million of them out there with frickin' stop-motion bullets. Fuck you guys! Make a comic book movie. If they can do it in Deadpool, you can do it in the other ones. I don't care what themes you use underneath. I don't care what president's in there, if it's orange or dumb or brown or black. Get the characters right. I could put up with almost anything you guys choose to do, but get the characters right. You want to do another version of a movie? You want to do another, what was it? Hercules? Not Hercules. The famous one with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Conan was ripped. Conan the Barbarian was a guy with more muscles than brain, with a tiny little loincloth. I don't need to see Jason Momoa. I want to see a guy who can barely speak English, mumbling with a Nordic accent. That's what I imagine Thanos to be now. It's just like, well, we're all models. We're all models, and look at my Tom Ford suit.
It was actually really funny in the original Conan series, if I recall correctly. He wasn't an idiot. He was actually a very good.
He was really smart, and I, you belie the intelligence of the character that they wrote, but when they do these things now, it seems like they're almost targeting women more than they're targeting fans or nerds. They're just going for the sex appeal portion of it solely. I mean, I don't know. That's just me. What are your thoughts when they're coming out with these characters and they're casting people? Do you think they're trying to fit a role or they're trying to fit a demographic?
I would say like the most like mainstream stuff. I know it's going to sound cynical, but yeah, probably a demographic. Like you know, if you like made a Red Sonja movie, you're like, they're not gonna care so much about the plot. It's like, who can we fit with as much boob and as little metal as we possibly can? You know they would do that. You know they would do that. And how's it been in a Red Sonja movie? And if so, why are we not watching that right now?
Yeah.
So, like, to an extent, I agree with this, but then you look at things like Wonder Woman. I think Gal Gadot got the sex appeal attraction right, but also played the character really well. And I think that entire movie was great. It was one of the few good DC movies that have come out.
It was well acted to me. She seemed actually not that jacked. She was kind of like thin. It was
She's
hard.
more toned.
She was more toned, but her acting was good. I got the feel that I didn't get the feel that she was an Amazonian. I got the feel like she came off a Greek tour boat, but that was fine. She owned the role. There are some times when they cast people where I can't get beyond the actor. Like again, Jason Momoa. Anytime I see him in a movie or anything, it's just the same character over and over and over again. He plays Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about Lord of the Rings with Jason Momoa. Well, he plays the... No. He's Jason Momoa. He's either going to have long hair or dreadlocks. Well, what about Stargate? Jason Momoa with the exact same long hair. What about Aquaman? Jason Momoa with the exact same long hair, but blonde highlights this time. And contact lenses because he's in the water.
I mean, I will give... I do see what you're saying there. I will give Jason Momoa credit, though, for being a badass, because I have watched that man chug an entire giant beer and then do like 3 bullseye axe throws in a row on a YouTube.
Do that?
Bullshit.
I could chug an entire beer.
And so, well...
And then throw 3 axes dead center bullseye?
I'll hit, they're just not going to stick.
No, they stuck.
Well, look at me and my frail, flabby little body, and then look at Jason Momoa. Hello?
Get good, scrub?
Get good!
So to keep things flowing, one of the other ones that I scribbled down here is like, so we're kind of in that vein right now, adaptations. So like, obviously you can never 100% adapt a book to a movie. There's always more detail in the book because you have the room for it. But when you have things that are, I feel, cut that added good flavor or good world building from a movie, because of time, like the entire Harry Potter movies cut Peeves the Poltergeist completely, and he actually, like, aside from being a fun little side comedy character, like there were moments that it was actually like he caused real drama because he could see Harry even though Harry was under the invisibility cloak and was trying to fuck with him, and like so like they cut this character completely. And I don't understand why.
They have the one problem with these things is they are going to frame it within a timeline. They'll say, hey, we've got 90 minutes to work with. There were characters, and again, I talk about what I know. I'm a Trekkie. And Star Trek Nemesis, which was the last Picard movie, they cut out the replacement first officer scene. It was a scene where we see who Riker's replacement is. They shot it and they put it on the cutting room floor. And the joke was, he calls him by his first name. And, Riker looks at him and goes, he loves it when you call him Jean-Luc Picard. And the guy gets on there and it's a very awkward scene. They cut it out. It was funny. They cut out a scene where they find Data's emotion chip on the floor in his room. So the idea was that he sacrifices himself, willingly with, no emotion required. There was a scene with that. There was a lot of stuff that they just chopped out that would have added so much more to the whole feel of the film. There's a poignant scene where they're discussing the whole interplay of marriage and why Data didn't understand why Picard was crying that Riker and Troy were getting married. He didn't make sense to him. He thought everyone should be happy. So these things added to the quality of the character development and was completely cut for time purposes. In The Watchmen, there was the squid. There's this big squid that lands on Earth and causes mass destruction. And I looked at it and I went, you know what? If you didn't add that, does it sacrifice from what Ozymandias is doing?
Yeah.
Not really. And they did do a thing where there was a bomb in a building and they wrote squid on it, and they put an Easter egg in there. So they paid homage to it. and it still maintained the movie. The quality of the movie, the characters. There was only one thing they did with Jeffrey Dean Morgan where when he gets his face slashed, he doesn't put on the clown mask. He doesn't put on that mask for the rest of the movie. He just goes with the scar on his face. So there's little changes, but you knew that you were watching The Watchmen. There was never a time where you were questioning who these characters were. You could pick them out immediately.
Well, and as much as I love the original comic book and do love the film, my biggest issue with that film is if you had not read the original comic book, I don't think you understood what was going on. I think to an extent you might have picked it up a little bit, but it kind of struck me like the first time you watch Fight Club. Like, classic movie. The first time you watch Fight Club, if you don't see the Tyler Durden thing coming. You don't see that they're the same, like, they're the same person coming. And
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoilers.
It is like 2019. If they have not seen Fight Club at this point,
you're not our people.
Yeah.
So why are you here?
Yeah.
So like I don't like I feel like like you might have picked up on it a little bit, but I don't know that, you know, some of the nuances and the manipulation of Ozymandias, like, I don't think they come across in the movie like they do in the comic book.
The thing with comic books when you're writing, or just a book in general, the Bourne Identity, they eliminated an entire character. Jason Bourne had a foil named Carlos, which was just an assassin. He was like the top of a cartel. He's not even in the movie at all. I mean, they've got Treadstone, but that was they kind of turned Treadstone into a person, so to speak.
Yeah.
And eliminated the main villain. The most important part of the movie element, especially in these kind of sci-fi movies, you have the protagonist, you have the antagonist. When we talk about the Batman movies with Christopher Nolan, do you remember Christian Bale as Batman, or do you remember Heath Ledger as Joker? You remember that Joker because he was so much more impactful.
I mean, I remember this Batman.
Yeah, and again, and then people go, well, who was the better Batman? Well, so let's take Michael Keaton as a young, in his prime versus that Joker. I'd almost rather see it that way.
Yeah.
And by the way, that Catwoman, that Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman, you could take her in any timeline, any movie. She was ahead of her time, that character. That character was raw and sexy. Did she follow the comic? No, she got resuscitated by cats who gave her CPR somehow.
Yeah.
Okay, but she was hot. She was hot today. Not, if you don't get in a fight, you can't get out of. Take me with you, Bruce. I'm the Catwoman. Can't you tell I've got leather ears on? And I'm hot. No, you're not. You're Anne Hathaway. You're fucking boring. Your Catwoman was fucking boring. You should shoot yourself. Okay? Sorry.
The thing, to be fair, like after the Dark Knight, and Heath Ledger's Joker, you can't really go up from that. You've reached the pinnacle.
Yeah,
so.
It's like blue balls. You're just trying to you want to go again? This is hurting now.
But you know what speaking of adaptations, I hate when they say, based on something awesome, and no, it's not. Two things that really pissed me off in the past decade. The movies Wanted, and the movie World War Z. Okay, I'm judging from the thing when I said World War Z. We all know it's that.
The scarf budget.
But have you ever seen the movie Wanted with Angelina Jolie?
No, that I did not.
I know of it. I have not actually.
Is that the one with that famous scene where she jumps off the bridge? Oh.
Yeah, and it's about a bunch of assassins who kill one person to save it. The comic book, which I own the graphic novel. Besides saying a couple of customers sharing the same name, it's been a long day at work. Characters sharing the same name and the title, nothing new. The comic book Wanted, supervillains. There's violence, death, gore. It is really well done. The concept is it's basically the villain version of Watchmen, basically.
Right.
It's Watchmen is you have you're trying to protect humanity. How far does that go? It's if you're a villain and you have all this power and you don't care what you do with it, where does that ultimately take you?
Okay. Like, I think that would be a good read. I wouldn't mind borrowing that.
Yeah, I've actually met the guy who wrote it, Mark Miller. Crazy Irish bastard. Awesome dude. Yeah.
So, while we're in the land of remakes and modernizations of stories, we have to touch on my favorite thing, Disney!
Oh.
So, like, where... I didn't actually get to see Lion King or Dumbo. But I did see Aladdin and I did see Beauty and the Beast. I really like Beauty and the Beast. I think they did a great job there. And then Aladdin, like, it was good, but it wasn't the same. Like,
Yeah.
I love Will Smith, and he did a great job. He made the role his own, but there's no way he can live up to the legend that is Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And I think, in fairness, he would probably say he wasn't trying to.
No, he openly said from the beginning that he was going to do his own thing. He wasn't going to try to be Robin. He was going to be Will Smith's portrayal of the genie.
Yeah, and I saw it. I liked it. I'm critical of a lot of these things, but to me, he's just zany enough. And if you're going to do a live action, I couldn't think of anyone better.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Did either of you get to see Lion King or the Tim Burton's Dumbo?
No. I've only seen Beauty and the Beast. Like, with as much Disney as my girlfriend watches, I'm surprised I have not seen any of those. But
Dumbo was good. It came near the Greatest Showman. Was it the Greatest Showman ever?
Yeah.
So it had that same feel, and if it wasn't for Dumbo, those movies would have been interchangeable.
Okay.
When they do movies like this, I just go, okay, all right. It's not as impactful. The ones that we're talking about, I think the ones that we're really talking about are the comic book movies, the sci-fi realm, Dragon Ball Evolutions.
oh no, I forgot that movie existed. Why did you do that to me?
I can't throw up on camera because I don't have the technology
Let
to
me
edit that
get
out.
an Asian guy and
This
replace
nigga
him
look
with...
like a Kamehameha. That's what you
Let
do.
me get an Asian guy and with the wavy hair and the muscles and replace him with Justin
Really
Chatwin.
Chow Yun Fat in that movie.
Yeah, Chow Yun Fat. How much money did they pay you? Did you like lose some money on a game? Like, what bookie did you have to pay at the last minute?
Well, since we're in the realm, I actually want to deviate into anime. And I want to bring up Full Metal Alchemist. Both are very good, but the original Full Metal Alchemist anime did a Game of Thrones.
Well, they were going faster than they could finish the content, so the guys doing the TV adaptation had to deviate, and it went in a direction other than what they intended, and
then it kind of became its own thing, and then they made Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is the anime equivalent that it's just an adaptation of the manga. So
that Brotherhood is what the show was supposed to be. The problem was I was soured on the first one, because the first one was really long. It was 50 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. They had the Knights of Shambhala, and it was good. I liked it. I did like that first one, and because of it, because they wanted to do Brotherhood so quickly on the heels of the first one, the epic scenes that happened when Graves died, or excuse me, Hughes dies, which was really touching in that first one. The daughter's crying. They glossed over it in a mad dash in Brotherhood. They blazed through the beginning storyline because you just saw it. And that's my point with a lot of this. If you're going to remake something, or you're like chomping at the bit to get what you really wanted out, space it out. Space it out. Why did Solo, just jumping back to Star Wars real quick, why did Solo do so bad? They brought it out almost immediately after the other Star Wars movie, which was Rogue One. They shot it fine, and then they released it a few months later. So everyone's saturated with it. The same thing with Full Metal Alchemist. You did an excellent series. People liked it. It was well received. It didn't follow the manga because you were still in the process of writing the manga. You could have waited another 4 or 5 years to do Brotherhood and brought it out and kept it on the back burner and just said, hey.
I think a lot more people would have been happier if they had taken the time to do the correct adaptation.
The first time around.
The first time around, or after that happened, said, hey, we want to make an adaptation that follows the manga. Let's wait a little bit. Let's let this cool off a little bit. And I think it's a great thing. They're worried about, hype dying down. And I think when you have a series that is as good as Full Metal Alchemist, that you can let it cool off, and it's not ever going to truly cool off, but it will cool off to the point where you're not oversaturating the market.
You know what the funny thing is? When you watch a movie adaptation that's not made by Hollywood, if you see a Japanese one like Attack on Titan, if you watch the Japanese Attack on Titan, except for the fact that Attack on Titan's somewhere in Europe, and all these guys are now all Japanese, like all of them, even the blonde-haired, even like all of them are like, all right, fine, whatever. But they get the costumes right, they get the storyline right, they don't screw around. To them, why would you deviate? It's unheard of.
Yeah.
It's unheard of. Now, they won't mind if somebody else decides to do it, like when they did Ghost in a Shell, and Major Makoto was like, some Long Island broad, like, hey, I'm freaking Major Makoto. I like, really? And they were like, no, we're cool with this. We don't care. Fine. But when they're making it, they don't screw around. That stuff is...
And can I... And again, I might be in the minority here, but I didn't hate the Scarlett Johansson Ghost in the Shell. I thought it was a very solid adaptation, and the visual effects are stunning in that movie. Like, it is cinematically beautiful.
So he's on the podcast now, right? He's we're just going to ignore him.
You know what I want to see Scarlett Johansson play? I want her to be Dr. Girlfriend.
Oh my God!
How good would that be?
Dude,
oh my God!
That would actually be amazing. Like,
there you go. That's what I'd like to see.
Can we get a live-action Venture Brothers?
Yes.
Yeah, but who's the monarch? Hold on, who's the monarch?
Oh, that's a good question. Who
Oh
would
my
be
God!
the monarch? Oh wow, that's.
You should table this for another time, because otherwise this is gonna be.
That's good. We're gonna take that one.
We're
for
gonna come back
time.
to that. That's a separate video.
Like casting, just like like live action of Adult Swim. Actually, speaking of
obviously, Brock Sampson is just played by his voice actor.
No, well, you know what? You know who Brock Sampson is. Brock Sampson is basically Mel Gibson from the '80s.
Yeah, but his
well, that's Patrick Warburton.
Yeah, Patrick Warburton.
Patrick Warburton doesn't.
He's also a unit. The man is large.
He's huge, but he doesn't look like that. He doesn't have that,
I think they could make
Lethal Weapon look with.
I think they could make him look like that
with the mullet.
Yeah.
And the.
I think the blonde curly mullet would be fine on Patrick.
I mean, come on, they made Robert Downey Jr. black at one point. They can make Brock Sampson.
Exactly.
Speaking of adaptations, and I'm gonna yell at Netflix for a bit here. Please stop with the Cowboy Bebop. I don't want us to do the live action Cowboy Bebop.
Oh no, John Cho is going to be Spike Spiegel.
The dog is not a corgi.
What?
You have failed.
What?
You
Whoa!
failed.
Stop! I knew they were doing it. I didn't see the casting. They did get the dog. What is it?
I forget what it is. I just know it's not a corgi.
No.
Then it's like,
Oh my God! You fucking assholes!
Did you learn nothing from Death Note? Did you learn nothing?
You have but one thing to do, and you not listen to a fucking thing we've said, you assholes.
Borrow one off the fucking queen. She has like 6.
Oh my God! How hard is it to cast a dog that you can train? They only live 10 years. You can get one in a couple of years and train it to do whatever the hell you want. You guys are dipshits. You know you ruined my day now. Like, literally.
My work here is done.
You've literally ruined my day. Netflix. This is as bad as when you had, and I'm going to say this, and I'm not saying this to be racist, but when you have Black Starfire with a fur coat running down the street with glop makeup, you fucked up. That's not Teen Titans.
Yeah, that did not look like it. It's like, you're fine, you can cast him out, but like, I think the outfit really did not do it. Like, fine, I get you want to.
No, it was ridiculous. It was completely. You're trying to tell me you can't find some Nordic-looking girl who could barely speak English to speak like Yoda? Okay, again.
Also, she would have taken to being orange a lot better if she was, Nordic.
Oh God, no, don't say that, because next remake of Teen Titans, it's just gonna be Trump in a wig.
Let me tell you something. No one's trying to stop fire, believe me. People tell me that I'm the best Teen Titan. The best Teen Titan ever.
Oh God.
Oh my.
Okay. Well, I had more anime I wanted to hit, but we deviated into Cowboy Bebop, and I'm just gonna.
Well, that's anime. That is anime.
That is it.
And
The Cowboy Bebop shirt.
Was Radical Edward going to be like a 30-year-old man? Like.
No, I think they actually.
Oh, actually, I forgot to tell you, I'm gonna be I'm gonna.
Oh my god, yeah.
That's gonna be my next
You're gonna
job.
be like, Fei Fei! Fei Fei!
Yeah.
Let me pose this to you on the Cowboy Bebop thing. Forget the live action thing for a minute.
I have to, or I'm not going to enjoy the rest of my week. Thank you, fuckflix.
Let's say that they were going to remake Cowboy Bebop like they did Evangelion, where they're going to keep the same story.
Okay.
It's going to be the same episodes.
Okay.
It's just an art adaptation upgrade.
You know, they sell Samsung TVs that will upscale to 4K, so you don't have to do that.
No. I mean, like,
I know, but...
full on, like, higher art budget than what they had initially.
And it's going to be the same voice actors, as, you know. I mean, look,
You don't even need to get it revoice acted.
How many? This is the thing. They kind of tried to do this with Dragon Ball Kai, didn't they? Where they touched up scenes and they voiced over a few things and they changed things around a little bit and they bridged episodes together. But Cowboy Bebop was
to cut out, 8 episodes of just powering.
Yeah, 8 episodes.
Yeah, no, they got it down before. They condensed it, He's gonna be, by the time you do, he'll
Hold on,
know by the
hold
time
on,
you do the next podcast, which.
Actually, I got lightheaded on that. Jesus Christ. Sean Schemmel is the freaking man to be able to do that. Look up videos of Sean Schemmel, who is the real voice of Goku, not that old Japanese lady. If you are anywhere out there and you think that Dragon Ball Z is better in Japanese, Harry Carey is your future. That is all you're worth. That old lady has no right doing Goku's voice. I'm sorry. Unless Goku is just taking the steroids and injecting them with a freaking stint directly into his nutsack. That's the only way he will ever get that high pitch of a voice. I mean, it is ridiculous. I had a friend tell me this. I'm like, look, there's a lot of stuff that should not be dubbed. 90% of it is bad, but shows like Dragon Ball Z and Full Metal Alchemist, you let the English-speaking people deal with that.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, modern dubs are really good, and the problem is there's just this culture that is like, no, sub for life, and it's the same as people who are like PC Master Race.
Well,
like,
it's the problem is with anime. It's like every voice is Johnny Young Bosch and Johnny Young Bosch.
There's just not
Johnny Young Bosch.
there's just not enough voice actors in the pool.
Hey, I think right here, you want me to be a random guy with a
We
samurai
don't need another
sword?
Joey Wheeler with his Brooklyn accent.
Hey, Yug! Hey, Yug!
I think part of the also problem
Yug!
with the whole sub dub debate and why we got into that is because, like, remember, like, back in, like, the early 90s, like, those shows when they brought them over, when they dubbed them, they changed the hell out of plots.
But
Yeah.
they were also
and this is gonna
they
be
were
Because some
also-
words didn't have a good translation.
Oh, no. Like, for example, take, and this is going to set me sound like a real nerd here. Sailor Moon, I know we're going off on this weird tangent. There
Oh,
were two
God.
characters.
Oh, the
who-
lesbian characters.
Yeah, in America, they were
Just
cousins.
friends. Oh, yeah, they were friends.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so
I think
that-
the Sailor
that
Jupiter.
is-
Also, how they, Sailor Uranus. Like, okay, I get it, but come on.
Well, there are Pokemon episodes that just had it because they couldn't air them, like where Jesse gets a boob job just to show up Misty.
James,
Oh,
the
that
guy.
was James.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's right. James.
the guy has boobs.
Boobs. Yeah, just to show up Misty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and so that's
That's some real spite right there.
that's a censorship thing, though. Like, that is them saying, I don't think American kids could handle this, and that's a completely different topic. I think we should do a censorship episode, but I think
They didn't think American kids could handle Kinder Candy
Yeah.
because there was toys inside the chocolate.
Don't
They
eat the
eventually
toy.
did it. They
Well,
eventually broke down.
The Kinders that we have are not real Kinders. They're packaged separately. You get chocolate in one half, the toy is in the other.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, you should buy one. They're actually.
By the way, is the Kinder Candy we have here in the States the same as it is there?
It's the same chocolate.
Because that was like some shitty ass candy. Maybe it's because I'm American, I'm used to like 5 pounds of sugar pushed into like that much candy.
See, I know.
But I'm like,
I
I'm
really like
"Eh."
the Kinder chocolate. It's very smooth.
Like the little weird prickly ball thing that remind me of those like goat heads used to get. It's like, going through the fields. It's like just what is this? It's like
it was like a malted milk ball covered in chocolate, like good chocolate.
But well, maybe I just got a bad batch. Mine were hollow, which did not have a good texture. I'm
They're not. They should be wafery.
Okay, well then apparently I need to sue fucking
Jesse
Kinder
wants to
now.
do a food show. We'll save the Kinder conversation for a food show.
Let's jump to video games. And this is where I think there are a lot of remakes that are actually good. Because it's more of a technological issue. You have the last year and a half, they've re-released the original Crash trilogy, the original Spyro trilogy, as updated PS4, new graphics, same gameplay, touched up a little bit because the controller input is actually faster now.
Didn't they redo Metal Gear Solid?
Well, no, they just keep. They've remade some of the Resident Evils.
Right, that was the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
So
Resident Evil 2 just came out. That's which I played. I loved the original Resident Evil 2 back on PlayStation. It's like I probably beat that like 50 times. It's like I like
weird flex, but okay.
Yeah, it's like I lived in a small town with nothing to do and I had very little money. So it's like I had a game, so I'm gonna play this game.
Yeah.
It's like to be
It
fair,
was
like,
either that or wait for the porn to load, where the picture's just halfway there, loading in segments, and just like,
it's like you're just masturbating to an eyebrow. Basically, it's like I don't have time to wait.
Man, look at those eyes on her. Oh man, 10 more
Oh,
minutes.
is that an earlobe? Oh, no.
Oh man, 10 more minutes, man. We'll be there, man. Oh, right.
It's like he's like I'm gonna have to edit so much out now.
No. This is all staying in. This is all
You know what,
staying
man?
in.
Next week I'm gonna download the whole girl, man. Oh man. Oh, 56K. Here we come.
So, we're in the video game genre thing. You're talking about Resident Evil 2. Have you played the new one? The re-release of Resident Evil 2.
Yeah, I played. Here's the thing. There was a lot I liked about, like, fine, update the graphics. But here's the thing, like, a lot of
your
also...
fixed camera angle. If you try to defend that, I'm gonna stop
Oh god,
the shit
no,
out of you.
the fixed camera angle. Yeah, get rid of that. That was people
Like-
modded that into the PC version. I'm like, why? That was terrible. Why would you do that to yourself? But I think they also got because we had Resident Evil 7 that came out a couple years ago, which was extremely terrifying. I actually got a chance to play a bit of it in the VR, and I played a demo of it on VR because they had a Resident Evil booth at a GameStop a couple years ago, and like it's that part where you crawl underneath the house and like you're just waiting in the dark, and then suddenly the old lady's there like with a light, and I was like, and I luckily they didn't sue me for having to replace the seat, which I'm sure I soiled and I'm like, but. They also got rid of a lot of stuff that I liked about RE2, like the zapping system, where like you played through as one character, and the choices you made affected the other.
Yeah.
It's like I get update the update the god awful tank controls, fix the camera crap, but it's like okay, but like then you because we had because horror games have changed, and now they have stuff like amnesia and stuff where you're constantly hunted by something, and they had the Mr. X who was in the original, but like he didn't follow you around all damn day.
Well, that's the question. It's the same thing as with the movies we were talking about earlier. Now there's also the issue of game mechanics. Did it stay true to the original storyline? Umbrella Corp behaved the way it's supposed to? Did they veer from that?
They added more story to it. I wouldn't say they deviated too much from that.
They just gave you more?
Yeah, some of this... Because they have to... Because you gotta understand, Resident Evil, I love Resident Evil, but there's like 50 billion different Resident Evil things, and none of it really makes a whole lot of sense if you stop playing and then think about it for like 10 minutes, you're like, yeah, who would do this? Like, yeah, no... It's like, first off...
Raccoon City, hey!
Although I will say this, the one thing I like that they put in the remake of Resident Evil 2 that they didn't have in the police station in the first one, they finally put bathrooms.
No.
I'm surprised you didn't have to, also, but they still the stupid thing where like you had to get like 1 billion damn keys to go anywhere in this place.
Oh, yeah.
Why would you have, who designs this police station?
Or wouldn't I just shoot out the lock or just kick the door
Yeah.
open?
I know, it's like zombies.
It's like when you're playing Fallout and you come to a door that half of the door is gone, but it's locked. So you got to pick the lock instead of just breaking the rest of the door.
Yeah, it's like,
Oh, I could stick my arm through the hole and... No. That's not the way they intended this to work. Somebody put a door and a lock here, and I'm going to do this appropriately. I'm going to pick it.
With a bobby pin.
Well, that's the thing is like I said, like update stuff, but like do you have to change everything? And some stuff doesn't need to be updated. Like the Dragon Quest games from like the old NES, they're going to be re-released on the Switch.
Okay.
In a couple days, I think. Actually, I think they may be today actually. But I looked at the pictures, and they updated the graphics. But the graphics, have you ever seen when they update like Final Fantasy stuff and they put it on like Android and it's that weird? It's 2D, but it's like this weird, colorful, cartoony thing that doesn't really look
so
right.
kind of like when they do the Dragon Ball video games, where it's trying to look like it's a comic.
Yeah, I guess that's the best way to
Is it
describe
like
it.
cell shaded? Like
No, it just looks like if like someone just made a video game that like a fan game or something, but
Yeah.
they use like weird graphics that they had on hand. It's like doesn't look right. Like no, just give me the old 8-bit. I think the old 8-bit would have worked fine.
well, and so what do you think they upgraded it to like a 32-bit?
I guess I would say probably. You ever played Lunar?
No.
Okay, it's kind of that style, but it's not done right. It's not done well.
Maybe they can remake Duck Hunter and have like wings exploding off, feathers flying around.
Shoot the dog! Shoot the dog!
No.
It's
Play
like-
the VR Duck Hunt.
Oh, do you get to use like what, an AR-15 and just...
No. It's a really good game.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you any more about it, but you need to play
I'll
it.
tell you this, in VR, I got to play when I think they call it Games Day for GameStop, where they have it at Las Vegas, and I went to 2017 one, and they let me try Fallout 4 in VR. And there's another element that we're really not discussing. Some of these games were not meant for VR.
No.
And they're adapting them to VR by just trying to make everything three-dimensional, and it doesn't translate well.
No. It does not.
And you got to be careful. I was playing that one. When you're standing there, you look down. When you look down at yourself in real life, you could see your legs, your lap, your feet, whatever. When you look down in these games, there's nothing beneath you.
No.
They don't even try to. So
And what's funny is some of the games address this by, like, if you walk in front of a mirror, you'll literally just be hands in a head. Like the Rick and Morty VR game.
Yeah.
You're just hands in a head.
Ta-da!
and it's creepy because it's disorienting. You're trying to make this real. Your brain is not physically adapting. And from that and the brightness, let's just, little science, real science. The eyes have a retina, which is a little shutter. And when there's too much brightness hitting it, it's opening and closing rapidly to try to process all this light. You're just shooting light directly into your brain. I was on the ground in 2 minutes, nauseous. When the German Shepherd is walking by me, and I can see the dog, and I run to reach out to him, and I look, and I have no legs beneath me, and I'm walking, and I'm just hovering. They had I took the thing off. I had to sit down. I was disoriented. These games are really not there yet physically where you can do this. I know places like, I've seen it at Fry's where they'll give you like a motion sickness wristband to wear that goes right onto your wrist where you have your pulse and everything to kind of keep you from getting sick. This stuff is kind of dangerous as it is right now. They've really not perfected it yet.
Yeah, no, and there are a lot more tools that are coming along to make it, I can't remember the name of it, but they just developed some base software that makes it a lot more fluid. What's really cool is like full-on interaction with how things behave. Like if you have a gun in VR and you drop out the clip, you pick the next clip up off the table and you actually load it in correctly, and like all the mechanics are there in a much more fluid state now.
You're gonna have to do a bodysuit. Like the Japanese already did this with VR sex.
What's the Japanese?
Yeah.
Well, we can't get to that level here in the States. Before we deviate too much off onto VR.
We don't have good 5G yet. We're not gonna have like.
Yeah.
We're gonna have the best virtual sex ever.
But
It's already installed in the way.
But yeah, with like stuff like video games, like also like, because we have new technology, people are like, hey, let's update. But it's like, it's not really meant to be updated. It's like what I was saying about movies. Like, Ghostbusters is a product of its time.
Yeah.
It was like
A really bizarre product of its size.
Yeah, but it was good. But then you made it. It's like okay. It's like but.
They focused on a gimmick.
Here's the issue that I had with the Ghostbusters. I'll run this one real quick. It was none of the characters were defined. All of them were slapstick comedy. When it was supposed to be one of them was the slapstick comic, and that was the thing about the original Ghostbusters. Each of them had their own different style of comedy. And instead, everyone was slapstick in this one. And then halfway through, they abandoned the villain for a cooler, more interesting villain in Chris Hemsworth. And just shit on the first half of the movie. So that's my issue.
And by the way, don't do the thing that they always do. They'll get one cast member from the original movie to sign off on it. They got Dan Aykroyd to say he loved it. When it came to Star Trek, they infused Leonard Nimoy in it, and of course he thought everyone was amazing. It was the best reenactment of McCoy and the best version of Spock, and Zachary Quintos, I sucked his cock and it tasted like my own. It was like, I'm like, what do you tell? Of course.
Yeah, that's a bit of a weird stretch.
It was like,
God, no, I'm picturing you. Oh my God. Ah,
see, I'm glad I don't watch Star Trek.
Oh.
Fascinating.
You know he would say that during sex, too. You know he would say that.
Oh, God.
I performed 69 on myself, Captain. It was quite invigorating. My palm far is now relieved. And there was no damage done, since it was autoerotic.
Oh, God. That got weird real quick.
That's what it's supposed to be here.
Yeah.
That's how
Fucking
Leonard
weird.
Nimoy really died. 69ing Zachary Quintos.
Well, you all know Vulcans don't have those little ribs, right? So.
Oh, man. And he just, he took one for the team.
Back into video games, pulling this
Yes,
all
please,
in.
please, God. I can't picture this anymore.
Let's talk about an upcoming thing that a lot of people are hyped for. We've been hyped for it for a long time, but again, this is a remake, and they're going so far as not just to remake it, but they're changing the gameplay too, and that's Final Fantasy VII. I mean, the original Final Fantasy VII is a pillar in the genre. It's most people's favorite Final Fantasy. It's not mine. Mine is 9 and 10. I really like those. But I like Final Fantasy VII is really good. You can't deny that. And so they're remaking the game, but the gameplay is completely different now. But it's pretty. And
So should they call this Final Fantasy VII?
Yeah.
I mean, let's not get into the fact that they're on their 15th Final Fantasy.
Oh no, because then you also have like Final Fantasy Crisis Core, Final Fantasy, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like
I know where the naming convention comes from, and it was the studio was about to go out of business. This was their last Hail Mary attempt at being successful, was the first Final Fantasy, so it was their Final Fantasy. If this game didn't make it, the studio was going to close. The game was successful. We're on 15 installments later, plus a bunch of splinters, and some games got sequels, so you have weird titles like Final Fantasy X-2.
Is Square Enix involved in this?
Yes, this is all Square. It started off as Squaresoft, and they merged with Enix and became Square Enix.
So this should be good. I mean, there's certain companies that if I hear that they're going to be working on it, I feel assured. So that's not bad. I'm an MMO player. When BioWare was taking over Star Trek Knights of the Old Republic Online, we were all, yay! The cinematics were good. Is the gameplay like that? No. Does the gameplay have anything to do with that? No. Oh. And they keep re-releasing new content, but they're like merging servers so fast, it's ridiculous. So in this case, with Final Fantasy VII, if a solid company's behind it, they've done great with the last remaining titles, and they want to remake it again, don't get too far off the farm, I'm down.
Okay.
I'm down.
Yeah,
I can be positive.
Square Enix is one of those companies like you kind of want them to remake old stuff, but then like they've remade some of the like SNES Final Fantasy for mobile and like
Yeah.
and you look at them like
You just
God,
know
this
that
is
the
a
main
global
character is
mess.
going to get smaller, and the sword's going to take up 7 city blocks, and you're just going to be whacking it around like it's paper mache. You know, like,
Yeah, in 20 years they'll remake Final Fantasy 7 again, and yeah, this time the sword. It's like the kid. It's gonna be like you play Katamari Damacy
gonna
when
look
the
like-
ball gets really big and the princess. That's what it's gonna be.
It's going to look like Vegeta's final flash attack. It's just going to like cut the earth in half. I mean, the guy's going to have no problem waving it around.
And so so this leads into the next vein. HD re-releases. Skyrim. They've put Skyrim on every console possible. It's also available for like the fucking Alexa.
I love that. I thought it was a joke, and they're like, "Oh, you can actually play it." Oh, why? I don't know why you would.
The
but you
point of
can.
Skyrim was it became Second Life because people were just putting their own content in there and modding the game. PC gamers we like to do that. So I don't know. I mean, a lot of times these guys remake these things because they see the dollar signs, they understand the popularity, they think they can get a second wind out of it.
Yeah. Like they did an HD remaster for PS3 of the original God of War trilogy on PlayStation 2, and they also ported up the PSP titles, so it was all scaled up to fit full-size HD. They didn't do like any graphical upgrades. It was just basically giving you a way to play this.
PlayStation has one amazing title that you have not mentioned, and it really does need to get into the realm of remake. It's a flagship title. I'm surprised you never brought up Parappa the Rapper.
Oh,
God,
Jesus.
I know.
I want to throw this at you.
Kick, punch, it's all in the mind, dude. God, after so many years, that stuck. It's just like in
I'm
your head.
thinking they could get Lil Wayne to be Parappa the Rapper. You know?
I mean, no.
Master Onion, though?
You gotta
Who's Master
appeal to
Onion?
the kids, and now that he's gonna be out of jail, you just get Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Oh yeah. He would look. He's got the I
Yeah.
can picture that. Master Onion, maybe.
He's gonna sell Master Onion down the river. You know it. It's just like
Kanye West. Kanye West, because he would be like angry about it. Goes, I'm Master Onion. There ain't nobody Funyun. Yeah.
You run out of rhymes real quick and just get upset and blame whatever they're.
I like fish sticks.
So the last thing I want to talk about is nostalgia to close out the show here. And that's going to be, I'm a millennial, you guys are Gen X, you're a millennial, and we're very nostalgic despite our age. I'm 29, and we've seen the world grow and change very rapidly. Like, I remember the beginning of the internet and, cassettes and VHS. And here we are, I'm not even 30, and everything's just digital online. You download it. Like, physical media is practically dead.
Yeah.
And so we inherently, because we can remember so much change, we become very nostalgic, and we remember, the old days. And we cling to these memories, and I think it has, I think how it affects our perception on remakes and re-releases and remasters is maybe a little bit skewing. Like, maybe some of these things do deserve a chance to be remade despite how we feel about the original, because maybe there's a chance to do it better. And I think, overall, that while, yes, there have been stumbles and things have fallen apart on some remakes, I think we need to be more accepting and not, we need to go into these movies or these video games or whatever the medium is with an open mind. Hey, I remember the original, I love the original, but let's go in and see what this is, disregarding the original, and see if we still like it now that it is a product of a different time. Thoughts? Comments? Am I too happy?
This was.
But I feel like though it's hard to divorce yourself from that, because growing up with some of that stuff, like the old Ghostbusters, the old Star Wars, it's like the old Star Trek. It's kind of hard because people who have never seen it, that's a different story. But we've seen it. We know what it was to us, and it's like seeing someone else change it is like
It's context. It's all contextual. The big thing in the Star Trek in the 60s was the first interracial kiss was between William Shatner and Nichelle Nichols, and the studio didn't want to put it in the final cut, and so in the scene where they turn away, Shatner crosses his eyes so they can't use it. So it was inserted, it became part of television history. And now you would look at it and go, so what, interracial couple? What do you mean interracial couple? That's racist. Why would you say interracial? We're all human. But there was a big context. That was wild 50 years ago. When it became Ghostbusters, that's more gimmicky. It's like, all right, 4 dudes, we're gonna make it 4 women. Me too. And it's like, wow, okay, you're doing something for the sake of it. Will it be funny? Because we can obviously see past, we can read through the lines. You did something for the sake of it. Will it be funny? Was it? No, it really wasn't. It didn't hold up. And it's not because the actresses are bad. It's just certain things weren't meant to be done just for the sake of doing it, just because you could. And that's the point. Someone's going to say, well, that's a horrible...
I'm just thinking of Jeff Goldblum's line from Jurassic Park. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Right, exactly. You hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of things that you can do, like you can cast a husky to be a Welsh corgi, because I found out it's a damn husky in the frickin' Cowboy Bebop movie, but it doesn't mean you should cast a dog with big long legs to replace a dog with stubby comical legs. But there's not a lot of thought given to it. It's just dollars and cents at the end of the day. The thing that people don't understand is staying power. If you make these remakes and you do something that's either just a gimmick for the time, and you would say, well, Rob, you said earlier, the interracial kiss was a big thing when it first came out. Fine. That was groundbreaking. We're past that now. Now you're just doing things for the sake of it. Are people going to want to watch it 30 years down the line? Or are they going to want to watch the first Ghostbusters? I mean, Melissa McCarthy's hysterical. Am I going to want to watch her just, swing around a freaking Ghostbusters pack with a bunch of CGI? And let's not even get into the fact that a lot of these things are all relying heavily on CGI. So in the 80s and before, people had to act and mimic and put more work into the performance.
Effects.
Yeah, which again, like when they back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, when did George Lucas start losing his mind and start like remastering and adding special effects to it?
Oh, that started way before the 90s.
Yeah,
The first re-release of Star Wars, he changed.
As like his thing is like, you're kind of like shitting on the special effect artists of that time. It's like they didn't have CGI, so we can see how they had to do stuff.
And at the same time, though, Lucas, as the creator, is he not within his rights to make the fuck you and your tiny dick? All right, guys. We're gonna have to start wrapping it up. The battery's getting low on the camera. This is a discussion that could obviously go on for hours upon hours. But Rob, final closing points.
Well, I mean, you really get right down to it. What do you want to do, accuracy, or you want your own thing? I mean, the writer Alex Kurtzman, what are his big movies? The Mummy, remake. Star Trek, remake. He's had a couple, like he did the Transformers one, and even then, that's just really a remake of an active cartoon. There's around a lot of originality there. They just came out with Battle Angel Battle Angel Alita, and that was almost like frame for frame from the anime. They did an excellent job. It's what we expect and we hope for when something sci-fi or anime-based or comic book-based comes out. Just get it right, and we will get behind it and want to see more of it. So that's my thing. Get it right. Understand the characters. Shatner said it best. There's a mythos to our characters. If you don't understand the core of the character that you're writing, don't do it. Someone will give you a job. Someone will give you some project to work on. Don't fuck up our childhood because you just want to make a quick buck. Find another way.
And like I said, sometimes maybe you should just let things lie. Let the older stuff stay as it is. We don't have to remake it. You leave it as a testament to those who came before, so we can see what they created and why it inspired everyone else after that.
Excellently put. Excellently put. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up for the day. Harvey, where are you going to be upcoming if people want to come see you?
By the time this airs, I have a show Saturday, but that's probably going to be after this airs. On the 18th, I will be at the Lit Tavern across from Town Square here in Vegas as part of the competition they have going on there.
All right.
So the only thing I have booked is judging the comedy competition at the Level Up Expo, February 21st through the 23rd, 2020.
All right. And fun fact about that comedy expo that he is judging, he has actually won it, 2 years in a row now?
I second place the first year, first place this year. That's why I'm a judge next year.
Congratulations.
I should have brought. I have a belt. I have a championship belt. It's like a wrestling belt that I could actually hurt. It's like they actually gave me like a wrestling belt. I could kill somebody with it. It's awesome.
Nice. Perfect.
If I don't kill on stage, I'll kill you afterwards.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, like, subscribe if you're new to the channel. And always, thanks for watching.
Thank you, guys. We look forward to seeing you again, and thank you, Harvey, for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Harvey.
All right.
All right, guys. See you next week.